One method, one teacher, be still and know. One method, one teacher, be still and know.
Happy Sunday. We've been working with a series of lessons based upon the ideas of bless, blessing, and blessed, and really have sparked some thoughts about the teachings of the Beatitudes. And the Beatitudes, and was reminded to come back to a wonderful resource that's been a real inspiration in my life, and I think in many of your lives. And if not, take some time to reflect on and pick up this one. It's called The Sermon on the Mount by Emmett Fox. And Emmett Fox is a very a wonderful, amazing spiritual teacher, had a real depth of awareness and understanding of the Bible and the metaphysical significance and understandings of these ideas and these teachings. And so I was thinking about some of the things that we've been referring to and talking about, and I was reminded of a story about Rabbi David Nelson. He tells this story of two brothers who went to their rabbi to settle a long-standing feud. And the rabbi got the two of the brothers to finally reconcile their differences, and they were able to shake hands. And as they were about to leave, he asked one of them to wish for the other, to give him a wish for and honor the Jewish New Year. And so the first brother turned to the other brother and said, "I wish for you what you wish for me." And the other brother says, "See, he's doing it again, Rabbi." So one of the Beatitudes that I want to talk about today, and it's a very, I think, a beautiful and important, significant teaching, and that is, blessed are the merciful, for they shall attain mercy. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall attain mercy. And as I began to think about that and began to reflect on it, it came into my awareness that the idea of the word merciful, really, definition for it from the Hebrew word is, see if I can say this properly, is echad, or ahead. It starts off with the word ahead. And the word ahead literally means loving kindness. Loving kindness. It's one of the clearest definitions of that Hebrew word, ahead. And that, interestingly enough, comes from another Hebrew word. It's actually a transliteration of an older Hebrew word, which is ahad. And the word ahad, I'm not sure I'm pronouncing it correctly, ahad actually means loving kindness to yourself, which I thought was really fascinating. And so when Jesus was talking about the idea of blessed are the merciful, the word was really, blessed are those who are loving and kind. And the energy and the vibration of kindness, we know, is one that really actually resonates throughout our being, which actually transforms not only our thinking and our feeling, but it actually transforms our physical body. There's scientific evidence that, and it's actually scientific proof now that shows that having thoughts and feelings and awarenesses of loving kindness actually bless us. It blesses our physical body. It allows the cells of our bodies and the functions of our body to be more fully flowing and in harmony with each other. And so one of the things that really, we recently saw a wonderful documentary called Kindness is Contagious. And it really replicates this understanding of that when we send out and do things that are kind, a couple of things happen. One is the studies this is a wonderful study that was shown in this documentary, that if you take the time to actually even give somebody a touch on the shoulder or a pat on the back, or even those kinds of gentle, loving reminders of being kind, what they've discovered is that there's a ripple effect, that those people will have a tendency to immediately begin to relax, and then they will actually go and do something like that and pass it on. More times than not, they will actually pass that on in some way. Isn't that fascinating? And so there's a ripple effect that when we are participating in this energy of kindness, that we are not just doing that necessarily for others, we're doing it for others, but we're also receiving the power and the benefit of that energy and that consciousness. The vibration of kindness is one of the most powerful and healing things that we can do. One of the things that Emmett Fox talks about is the thing that really matters is that you be merciful in your thought. Kind actions coupled with unkind thoughts are hypocritical, dictated by fear or desire or self-glory or some such motive. They are counterfeits, and they bless neither the giver nor the receiver. On the other hand, true thought about a fellow man blesses him spiritually, mentally, and materially, and blesses you as well. So one of the things that we are taught is that it's really basically the law of attraction. It's one of the most clearest statements of the law of attraction if you think about it. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy. They shall attain mercy. You will experience mercy. Blessed are those who are kind, for you will experience kindness. Now, don't get me wrong. You may not always receive it back from the same place that you give it. It's really valuable to understand that sometimes you may give kindness and others may not be able to receive that. They may be in such a place of pain or darkness or whatever, unconsciousness, in such a way that they're not in a state that they can really recognize or accept or receive that kindness. However, if we decide to be kind to someone and they're not kind back to us, if we then get angry and resentful at them because they're not being kind back to us, we're actually basically moving down to their level of energy, aren't we? We're moving into their energy field. And so part of our practice, our spiritual practice, is to learn that even when we send out kindness and we don't receive it back in the same place in the same way, to trust and know that that energy is still being put out there, and others are going to be in a position to either see it or receive it or not, and trust that that energy still is circulating throughout the universe, you might say, and it is and will come back to us, and we will experience it in some other form, in some other way, from some other channel, you might think. Emmett Fox says, let us be merciful in our mental judgments of our brother, for in truth we are all one, and the more deeply he seems to err, the more urgent is the need for us to help him or her with the right thought. Not trying to get them to have the right thought, having the right thought ourselves. Does that make sense? And so it makes it easier for them to get free. You, because of your understanding of the power of the spiritual idea, the Christ truth, have a responsibility that others have not. Isn't that interesting? Interesting thought. You have a responsibility because, in all honesty, because you have come into some awareness of your divine nature. You've come into some awareness of your spiritual qualities. You've come into some awareness of the power of your thought and your creative energy, and therefore you have actually a responsibility that the other person at this point does not have, because they don't have the same awareness. They don't have the same understanding. They don't have the same clarity of thought. And so part of our work when we're in that situation and circumstance is to try to not necessarily focus our energy on trying to get them to think different thoughts, but to make sure that our thoughts are in alignment with what we want to, one, send forth, but also what we want to receive back. Because you understand the power of the spiritual idea, the Christ truth, you have a responsibility that others have not. See that you do not evade it. When his or her delinquency comes to your notice, remember that the Christ in them is calling out for help to you who are enlightened. And so, be merciful, be kind. Wow. That's not always an easy thing to do, is it? Jesus had all these interesting little things to say about turning the other cheek and all that kind of stuff. And, it's not always an easy thing, is it? But it is the work. It is it. And the powerful thing about it is, as we do the work, not only are we transforming ourselves, but we're transforming the lives of others, whether we recognize it or realize it or not. And we are actually raising the consciousness and the energy and the vibration, not only of ourself, but we're helping to raise the energy and the consciousness of vibration of humankind. We're reaching out in a way that we are elevating our thinking and our thoughts, our consciousness, our vibration, so that we are helping to raise, what's that saying, that all boats rise together? We're raising the level of awareness and energy in our world. And as a result of that, we are not only participating in blessing, but we are experiencing the blessings of a world that we can live in that actually moves us into a higher awareness and place in all of our lives. And so I wanted to go on and move into the next beatitude. And the word beatitude basically does mean a blessing. And so the next beatitude that he talks about, actually it's not, I kind of went out of order a little bit, but he says next is that blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. I love this phrase, blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. Here we receive an invaluable and practical lesson in the very art of prayer, according to Emmett Fox. And prayer, at the very essence of it, the very beginning of prayer, the very essence of what allows prayer to work, and it really doesn't work effectively unless we're in a place of moving into a space of peacefulness. It's really not necessarily about trying to get peace going on out there. We sing every Sunday, let there be peace on earth and let it begin with me. And I'm going to suggest to you, it's not even just beginning with me, it really has to begin in me. It's really moving into that place of stillness and silence. He says the peacemakers spoken of in this beatitude are those who make or bring about this true peace, the peace that Jesus called the peace that passes understanding. And the peace that passes understanding really is a place within us where we can experience, not necessarily from a mental perspective, but from a true heart perspective, of just knowing that there is, it's even more than a knowing, it is an experience, I believe, directly of the presence of the divine. He calls it serenity. Serenity in our own souls. For if it is they who surmount limitation and become actually and not merely potentially the children of God. The very act of moving back into a place of peace moves us into an energy and a consciousness of being a child of God. Let's talk a little bit about what it means to be a child of God. What does it mean to be a child of God? Well, if you're a child, from a scriptural and metaphysical perspective, the child is one who inherits from the parent, right? And Paul basically said we are children of God and we are heirs and joint heirs in Christ. And so we are each one, as we move more into that place of serenity within ourselves, we are really in a place where we are able to actualize and experience more of that wonderful connection that we have with the source of our being, with our true divine nature, with our divine self, with the Spirit of God that is within us. Child of God really refers to that presence of the divine within you. You are created in the image and after the likeness of the divine. It says, oftentimes it says the Father, but the word Father really was translated from a word that at the root means sire or source. So it's not necessarily meant to be a sexist thing because it really is the father and the mother. And our source is both the Father, the divine Father, and the divine mother. And so when we are moving back into a place of serenity, when we're taking that time to stop, and even in the midst of those things that we find challenging, the midst of those places that we find ourselves in turmoil, the midst of those places where we find ourselves out of sorts, The times when we, as children says, when we get hooked, you know the hook? We get hooked into the emotional dramas of what's going on out here in the world. We get hooked into thinking that there's something out here that is the source of our good, and then there's somebody that's getting in the way of that, or something that's getting in the way of that. Our work is to move back into that place within us of stillness, of peace, of serenity, where we are both in alignment with the presence of the divine, but we're also an experience and an expression of that divine, where we begin to practice this understanding of the truth of our divine nature and tune into the amazing potential and possibility that we are created to be. Metaphysically, the word, the name, the idea of Christ is an expression of what the divine intended for each and every one of us to experience. It is our own unique divine experience and expression of the divine in and through us and out into the world. It's not Jesus' last name, despite some popular thoughts about it. It is a title that is given, and Paul said that we are, as children of God, we are joint heirs in Christ, in that divine consciousness, in that divine nature. And I'm convinced that really, ultimately, there really is only one divine nature within every one of us, that we're all a part of that divine nature, and that we're deeply connected to that divine nature and to each other because of that divine nature. And the more we tune into that, we are not only experiencing and expressing peace, but we are instruments of that peace out in our world. The peacemakers are those who tune themselves up, tune themselves back. Jesus said, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give unto you. Let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid." Neither let it be afraid. Moving out of the fear back into that place of peace is one of the first, as one of my instructors, Ed Rabel, used to say, the first fruits of prayer is a sense of peace. The first time we move back into prayer, we get into that place of peace, and it's from that place of peace that we're instruments of a greater expression of the possibilities of good in our lives and our world. So Emmett Fox says, once you understand the power of prayer in this way, you'll be able to really heal many quarrels in a true way. He says, it's not necessarily about going out here and trying to necessarily get others to stop their conflicts. In many ways, we are, he points out that, sometimes, have you ever got in the middle of a squabble before? Anybody know what I'm talking about? We're trying to, I'm a middle child, and so, that's one of my, if you guys know about the birth order thing, one of the things that they say about middle children is that we're the peacemakers. And so, boy, when my brothers and sisters were at it with each other, I was the one who was always trying to make peace. Well, you can do that for a little bit, and people will actually come together and try to have an agreement that for the time being, they're not gonna fight or whatever. But you're not really making peace per se. What you're doing is really suspending conflict for a period of time. Isn't that true? Until the next time when, someone says or does something, or like the brothers earlier, I said, there you go, starting it again. So our work is not so much to try and get others to be at peace, or even for that matter, the real work is not so much trying to be at peace ourselves with others. Our work is first to learn how to move into that place of serenity within ourselves, regardless of the differences that we have with others, regardless of whether we see things from a different perception, a different perspective. I shared last week that in a conversation I was having with someone recently, that someone said, people are just, have these positions. And it came to me that the moment that you have a position, you're going to have opposition. And so it's really valuable to recognize when we get attached to our position, that is our way of viewing and seeing things, you can bet there's going to have somebody that's going to have a different view. It's going to have a different position. And that doesn't necessarily have to move us out of our place of peace if we recognize that our position is not necessarily the truth. Our position is simply our perception of what we believe. It's a concept. And so it's valuable to recognize that and to pay attention to it. And so the next one is one that, the next beatitude is one that's oftentimes a bit challenging. And it's been challenging for me at times, and I think it's been challenging for a lot of people. Blessed are they who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when men shall revile you and persecute you, and shall say all manner of evil against you falsely for my sake. Rejoice and be exceeding glad, for great is your reward in heaven. My notes got cut off, but that's what it says. Great is your reward in heaven, for so persecuted they the prophets which were before you. It's an interesting awareness, interesting thought, and it's kind of a little bit surprising because we have been taught over and over again, and Jesus said over and over again in many different ways that it is the Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Emmett Fox points out that, we've looked at these, and so many of them are pointing out that the will of the divine is for us to experience this peace. The will of the divine is for us to experience blessings. The will of the divine is for us to experience love and health and wholeness and abundance and prosperity in our lives. So it seems kind of odd that he's saying to us, blessed are you when you are being persecuted. And so I think it's valuable for us to look at what he's talking about with this. He says that the peacemakers who do this, praying in meekness, shall obtain prosperity, inherit the earth, have their mourning turned into joy, and that in fact whatever that we ask for, the Father in heaven will do. And so we're told here that it's blessed that we are persecuted as a result of our right thinking, as a result of our righteousness. We talked a little bit about righteousness a couple of weeks ago, and the idea of righteousness really is simply moving back into a place of alignment with our divine nature. And so for that, this means that we shall triumph, that it's cause for rejoicing and gladness to be reviled and accused, and that the prophets and the great illumined ones suffered these things as well. So all this is indeed very startling if you think about it. If you think about, he says it's perfectly correct, however, because what we're talking about is not necessarily outside persecutors. Think about that for a moment. We have a tendency to think about that in terms of, they did it to me, right? Anybody got that they did it to me kind of that goes on? We all have that on some level. It's all about, they did it to me. But what he's pointing out here is the reality of what Jesus is teaching. Each one of these Beatitudes really is not so much about what's going on out here as what's going on in here and in here. What's going on in our thinking and in our emotions and our feeling. What's going on in our heart. Earlier we talked about blessed are the went blank for a second. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God, is a principle of recognizing the presence of the divine in all circumstances and situations. And the heart, the blessed are the pure in spirit, for they shall see God. The more we practice the principle of seeing the divine in circumstances and situation, it actually allows us to experience more of a clarity of connection with our heart. The heart referred to really is metaphysically and metaphorically speaking of our subconscious mind. Blessed are the pure in heart really means blessed are those who's really cleared and cleaned much of the subconscious programming that we have in our lives that tends to move us into places of being victim, that tends to move us into places of seeing ourselves as somehow less than, or tends to move us into places of blaming and judging things out here in the world for our difficulties and challenges and circumstances. And so he goes on to talk about this. it's startling, but he says there's no outside persecutor, but only our own lower selves. He's talking about the understanding of our critical mind. You know that? You know that place? Anybody got one of those? We all do. There is a part of ourselves, our ego mind, it's been called in many teachings. The Course in Miracles talks about it as the ego. It's really about an understanding that when we find ourselves in a place where we are moving back into an alignment with our divine nature, it's not unusual, it's not uncommon for the ego mind to jump up and says, wait a minute, what about me? What about me? There was a young boy who is a Catholic boy, and he was going to confession, and he said to the priest, he said, Father, forgive me if I have sinned. I've had some bad thoughts. And the priest asked him, well, did you entertain those thoughts? And the boy says, no, but several of them entertained me for a while. You know, the thing of it is, I think sometimes a lot of our thoughts is really just for that purpose. A lot of the things that go on up here are just to keep us entertained, just to keep us distracted, just to keep us from really being aware of and thinking about our true nature. A lot of the things that we get hooked into in terms of our self-identity out here in the world are simply entertainment, to keep the ego mind entertained so that we don't get into an understanding and a realization that the ego mind isn't who we truly are in the first place. It's a way of trying to distract us from our true being and our true nature. So when we are finding ourselves experiencing that persecution, that self-judgment, that self-criticism, thank God. Interestingly enough, that's what he's saying. Be conscious and aware that what's happening is that you're moving into a place of recognizing that this is going on inside of you. And if you can begin to recognize, the interesting thing is that the one thing that the ego mind does not want or does not like, it loves attention, but it doesn't like the light. You understand what I mean by that? It loves the attention, but it doesn't like the light. It doesn't really want to be revealed. It wants to remain in our unconscious. It wants to remain right below the surface. Because if it remains right below the surface, then we don't do anything about it. We don't do anything to change it. We don't do anything to shift it. We don't mess with it. You know? If it just remains below the surface there, it can stay there just below the surface of our awareness and consciousness, and we got all these little niggling monkey mind judgments and criticisms and things that are going on. And if we don't bring them into the light, if they don't come up for us, then we're not releasing them. They're just hanging there. And so part of this, I believe, is saying that we're blessed when we see and experience what's going on in our consciousness in such a way that we can bless it and release it. He says when we find righteousness of right thinking very difficult, when we are very strongly tempted to hold the wrong thoughts about some situation or some person or about ourselves, to give way to fear or anger or despondency, then we are being persecuted for righteousness' sake. I came across an interesting little article. He says the article is about the healing power of poison. Healing power of poison, really interesting. If it doesn't kill you, they say it'll make you stronger. Medical researchers are giving the old adage new meaning by finding ways to heal using some of nature's most lethal poisons. Interestingly enough, they're using things like arsenic. And they're finding that arsenic in very small dosages can actually kill cancer, but it doesn't necessarily kill the body. You know, and it's the same principle in really ways of homeopathics. You guys familiar with homeopathic work? So even if it's not the allopathic work, it's the homeopathic work. And so there's an idea, a principle that, that oftentimes there are things that can disturb us and cause us problems, cause us challenges, upsets, but at the same time, those very things can be things that can be transformative and healing for us. And part of our practice and part of our work is to allow ourselves to not move into and become identified with that level of thinking, but to recognize that there's an essence within us that is connected to loving kindness. And that there's a way of moving back into that experience of loving kindness, even in those times when we've got all this monkey mind, judgments, critical. Boy, the most viable thing we can do at that moment is to be merciful. Is to be merciful. Is to share loving kindness with ourselves. Echad. Is that the way I said it? No, I'm not saying it correctly. I'll have to look it up again, the pronunciation. But it really does mean being kind to self. You and I have a great opportunity and responsibility to be instruments of the light in our world. And I believe that's what the Beatitudes are calling us to. They're calling us to experience and express more of that kindness to ourselves. And in the very act of doing that, it allows us to move into a place where we can also extend that kindness to others in our world. And vice versa. It's interesting because when we practice loving kindness with others, sometimes it helps us to even be more compassionate with ourselves, but also if we are being more kind and compassionate with ourselves, it makes it much easier for us to do the same and to be compassionate with those out in our world. So today in our meditation time, we're going to practice the wonderful loving kindness meditation. And I'm going to take it to a level that maybe we haven't done before. So we're going to move into our meditation time. We're going to have a little song, and then we're going to take some time to meditate and reflect on what it means to be blessing and to bless and to be a part of the energies of kindness. Take another nice deep breath, breathing into the heart space. And just to let your awareness to focus on your breath and allowing yourself to be aware of the breath and the blessings that each breath is, and the ability to breathe and to be breathed by Spirit. Breathing in, let the breath go all the way in, and as you breathe out, let the breath go all the way out, and just pause for a moment on the in-breath and the out-breath. And maybe just feel a little thought of thank you at the end of each breath. And as you breathe in and out, take a moment now to focus on your physical heart. And see yourself and feel yourself breathing into your physical heart. Feel what that feels like. And then as you breathe in and out of your physical heart, take a moment now to bless your heart. That wonderful old Southern phrase, I'll bless your heart. Let's just do that for ourselves right now. Just bless your heart. Have thoughts of love and care and compassion for your physical heart and for your spiritual heart, which is metaphysically the subconscious level of your mind. And all of the thoughts that tend to come and bubble up from that space, just send thoughts of love and care and compassion. And as we hold that awareness and continue with allowing the breath to flow in and out, just silently affirm for yourself, may I be happy. Breathe that into the heart. May I be safe. Just breathe that in and out. be healthy. Just breathe that in. May I be at peace. And just take a moment now to let that be a mantra for you. As you breathe in and out of the heart space. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I be safe. May I be at peace. You can even place your hand over your physical heart if you want to kind of help focus in that place, in that way. And as you center your energy, your consciousness in that space, in that way, we're going to choose a blessing for ourselves. And so silently affirm for yourself, I choose happiness. Feel what that feels like in your heart to choose happiness. And if other stuff comes up, if there's little persecution noises, just bless those. Let's go back to I choose happiness. I choose safety. I choose to feel safe. Right here, right now, where I am, in this moment. Feel what it feels like to feel safe. I choose health. Just bless any of the earbuds or the chatter or the voice of anything that will block that or stand in the way, or will try to. I choose peace. Lean into that. You really make that choice to allow peace to be your very essence of nature. Let's take it another step. And just affirm for yourself now, I am happy. Feel what that feels like. And if anything comes up that says, yeah, no, you're not, just bless that little voice. Set it aside. Thank you for sharing. And say, no, that's not where I am right now. I'm happy. If you need to go back to choosing it, then go back and choose happiness. Just affirm gently for yourself. I am safe right here, right now, in this moment, in this space, in this time, in the present moment. I am safe. I am healthy. Focus on the health that you do have. We have a tendency to focus on all the little aches and pains and things that are not going the way we think we want them to. Turn your attention away from that for now. Just really bless your physical body, your mental and emotional body, your spiritual body. Feel and see the health and wholeness that's there. Acknowledge it. And give thanks for it. And appreciate it. Affirm, I am peace. Breathe into that feeling of peace, of serenity, of that stillness, that silence, peace. be willing to be in that energy and that vibration of peace. You feel it emanating from your heart, and emanating into the hearts of all those around you. Now we take this time to also shift. Bring into your awareness someone in your life and world that you've been challenged by, you have had some difficulty with, or you feel like some conflict or hurt, frustration. It could be someone in your personal life, or it could be someone out in the world that you're just aware of that you've had issues with. And let's take a moment now to be a blessing. As much as you feel you can, affirm for this person. May you be happy. And genuinely, as much as you can, feel a desire and a wish for that person to experience that knowing, that feeling of happiness. May you be safe. See and feel them experiencing that feeling of safety and security. May you be healthy. See and feel them experiencing absolute vibrant health. And may you be peaceful. See them and feel them experiencing peace in their heart, their mind, their spirit, their soul. All aspects of their being. And now I choose to see you happy. I choose to see you safe. I choose to see you healthy. I choose to see you peaceful. And know that making those choices for the other is also bringing back that energy to you from the universe. So we hold this awareness for them. You are happy. You are safe. You are healthy. You are peace. Thank you, Blessed Spirit, for the blessings of being a blessing, of receiving a blessing, of sending forth blessings, for the awareness that as we are sending out loving kindness, we know that it is returning in and to and through you in just the right, perfect way to bless us with the highest and best in our lives and world. Thank you, Blessed Spirit. So it is. Amen. Back to awareness of this time of grace. Let your heart be filled with the cleansing, healing experience of blessing yourself and blessing others. Take another nice deep breath. And when you're ready, just be present here and now with your eyes open. Thank you for letting your light shine in this way for yourself and for the world.